Hello and welcome to this lesson about solving quadratic equations. The learning target for this video is using factoring to solve quadratic equations. So let's jump into some of the main ideas that we're dealing with. Now, I've said this many times, but I believe there's a distinct line in the sand between algebra, or in algebra. Half of it is x. I usually say plus 1 is equal to 2, but today I'll use x minus 1 is equal to 2. And the other half is x squared minus 1 equals 0. Now that we're talking about quadratics, we're definitely over here. And the reason why these are two halves of algebra is because they have two different methods for solving. So on the left here, if we were to solve, we would do a little mirror line, and our goal is to get x all by itself. We would add 1 to both sides and find out that x is 3. But let me propose to you a slightly different equation. X squared plus x equals 2. Now here it's a little more complicated. How do I combine x and x squared? How do I deal with it? Because I'm looking for a value that I can leave by itself, just as x, but then when I square it and add it to it, I can get 2. That's very complicated. Hard for our brains to kind of wrap our mind around it. So we have a completely different strategy for solving these things. And now the key principle here, let me write that down, key principle, is this idea. A times B equals 0 if and only if A equals 0 or B equals 0. All right, that's what the two F's stand for, if and only if. Now, when we were talking about factoring, what I said is that we're going to take something like x squared plus, let's say, 3x plus 2. We're going to take this problem that's full of addition signs, and we're going to turn it into a multiplication problem. That's why we spent time working on factoring. We want to turn these expressions with addition or subtraction into multiplication, because then this becomes A, this becomes B, and if we know that this is equal to 0, that helps us kind of crack open the equation and solve it. So let's talk about the process here. Step number 1 is to get it in standard form. So get it in standard form. And standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. And really what this means is that we want everything over on one side. So we want ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So move everything to one side is really what this boils down to. But I wanted to reference standard form because as we look at some other methods, standard form, or as we start talking about graphing, knowing what standard form is really useful. So make sure you know what standard form is. Second step is to factor. So again, we're going to take this expression of addition and multiplication and turn it into multiplication, or addition or subtraction, and then turn it into multiplication. So we want to be able to do something times something equals 0. At which point in time, we apply that A times B equals 0 if and only if A equals 0 or B equals 0. So step 3 is to make mini equations. Set equal to 0, and step 4 is to solve. All right, now when I mean make mini equations, I mean you take whatever this is, set that equal to 0, take whatever this is, set that equal to 0. So enough talking, let's do some examples. First example, let's go with x squared plus x equals 2, the one I referenced earlier. Well, here we want to get everything over to one side, so I'm going to move my 2 over. My goal is to try to maybe keep that positive. Okay, so if I have a negative x squared, I might want to move everything, or move the x squared to the other side so that way it becomes positive. But try to keep your x squared term positive. It just makes life a lot easier. So when I do that, I'll get x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. It's now in standard form, so I can factor it. X and x, think of some factors of 2, so I'm going to go plus 2 minus 1 equals 0. Step 3, make mini equations. So what I like to do is kind of draw a line and be like, this is going to be one of my equations, that's going to be another equation. X minus 1 equals 0, or x plus 2 equals 0. And so now I solve these little equations. So x equals 1 or x equals negative 2. And there we go. Let's do some more examples. So this one, let's go with x squared minus 9x plus 10 equals 0. It's already in standard form, so all I have to do is put it in parentheses and start factoring. Think of some factors of 10. I'm going to go minus 10 plus 1, that equals 0. And then make my two separate equations, so break them up in two pieces. X plus 1 equals 0, x minus 10 equals 0. And really what we've done here by making our two separate equations, again, this is that step, a times b equals 0, only if either a is 0 or b is 0, or perhaps both of them are 0. And so this is how the factoring process works. Again, this is why we go from addition and subtraction down to multiplication. It allows us to say something with more certainty. As a result, x has to equal negative 1 or x equals 10. And those are our answers. So for a lot of these, you're going to end up getting two answers. Won't always be the case, but for most of them, we're going to get two. Okay, let's do a couple more examples. Next one, x squared minus 144 equals 0. So this one is why we talked about those difference of squares, because this is what we have here. This is x squared and this is 12 squared. So when I factor it, I'll get x minus 12, x plus 12 equals 0. Make my two separate equations, x minus 12 equals 0, x plus 12 equals 0. Therefore, x equals 12 or negative 12. And so that covers the basic examples. Now I'm going to do two more, and these are going to sort of be medium to hard examples. So our next one, I think this is number 4, is 2x squared minus 28 equals x. Okay, so here we want to get it in standard form. I want this x to be over here. I want everything to be over on the left side, so that way all that's left on the right side is 0. So I'll subtract x from both sides. I'll end up getting 2x squared minus x minus 28. Now again, we look at this, that's kind of tough. What values of x would work for this? If we can make it factoring, it's going to be a lot easier. So factor it, get 2x and x. Look at some factors of 28. I'm going to kind of jump the gun because I made the problem, so I know how it factors. We're going to go with plus 7 minus 4. It might take a little bit of work for you to get there, but this is where we have to use those factoring skills. And now the point with this one is that our two separate equations are going to be a little more complicated. 2x plus 7 equals 0. X minus 4 equals 0. So here, so the one on the right will be fairly straightforward. X equals 4. The one on the right, x is going to equal negative 7 over 2. Subtract 7, divide by 2. Those are our two solutions. Finally, let's do a super hard example, or at least as hard as I can make them. All right, this one, 5x squared plus 9x plus 2 equals 2x squared minus 5x plus 7. Now again, I want to get everything onto one side. And so what I'm going to do is move everything over to the left side because I see 5x squared and 2x squared. I want my x squared to be positive. Now here I'm going to take my time and show the process. Minus 2x squared minus 2x squared. Plus 5x plus 5x. Minus 7 minus 7. Now on the right, I have 0, which is what I want. On the left, I combine some like terms. 3x squared plus 14x minus 5. Now I go to the factoring stage. 3x and x. And I look at my factors of 5. Those are 5 and 1. And based off of this 14, I think I'll have to have a 5 here and a 1 there. I want plus 5 minus 1. All of this equals 0. So now I make my two separate equations. And I get 3x minus 1 equals 0. Or x plus 5 equals 0. When I solve, again, the one on the right, fairly straightforward. X equals negative 5. Then on the left, I add 1 to both sides. 3x equals 1. Divide by 3. X equals 1/3. Or x equals negative 5. And so that is solving quadratics by factoring. And again, the key idea here is all about, oops, where is it? Right here. A times B equals 0 if and only if A or B equals 0. So we want to factor our quadratic with everything on one side and then solve each of those little factors for 0. Good luck with your homework or practice, and let me know if you have any questions.